amazing what $20 will do for you.
That's right. Yeah. And I'll have to pay you later.
That's fine. Your credit's good with me.
All right. I sure appreciate y'all coming out today because what I want to discuss with you, I think, is extremely important with regard to us individually in our state and perhaps even our nation. In a paraphrased statement made by second President of the United States, John Adams, he said, "We are a government of laws, not of men." And Bastiat said in his book, The Law, that law is an organized force to prevent injustice. During the past session, the Missouri General Assembly introduced and debated and passed House Bill 1308, a bill that would change the wait time on abortion from 24 to 72 hours. The bill was passed, of course, and was vetoed by the governor. And the Missouri House and Senate recently overturned that veto by a vote. I don't remember all the totals, but it was a unanimous vote, an overwhelming vote in both House and the Senate. And while this can be considered a victory for life, it's really just the beginning. That action is not enough. As I read the U.S. Constitution's preamble, it says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to establish justice, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity." And I couldn't help but wonder about justice, the welfare, and the liberty for that new life. The newly created, rapidly forming human that hangs in the balance. A life that we only had a small part in creating. My thoughts then turn to the Missouri Constitution, the supreme law of our state. The preamble states, "We, the people of Missouri, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe, and grateful for his goodness, do establish this Constitution." And I challenge each of us to measure the reverence that we have for the supreme ruler of the universe. Are we sincerely grateful for his goodness? Do we truly believe that he created us and holds our future in his hands? Or are these words simply wasted ink on parchment? In Section 2 of the Missouri Constitution, it says that all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people, and that all persons have a natural right to life. And then I turn to the statutes. Missouri Revised Statute, Chapter 1, Section 205, subsections 1 and 2, read, "The life of each human begins at conception. Unborn children have protectable interest in life, health, and well-being." Coupled with the Constitution, Missouri law guarantees protection to each and every unborn child. A letter was drafted and mailed to the Missouri Attorney General Chris Koster late last week. In short, the letter calls on Mr. Koster, as the highest law enforcement officer of our state, to enforce the law, protect the unborn, and close the remaining abortion clinic in our state. I read a story once about a man named Paul who was a businessman, and on Christmas Eve his brother had given him a brand new car, and it parked outside his business. And at the end of the workday, Paul went out and he found this street urchin walking around the car just admiring it. And so he asked the little kid, do you like the car? He said, "Boy, do I." And the man said, "Well, my brother gave it to me as a Christmas gift." And astounded, this little kid said, "Wow, I wish," and Paul stopped him short because he knew what he was going to say. He was going to say that he wished he had a brother like that. But then the little boy went on to say, "I wish I could be a big brother like that." And then he was kind of befuddled, but Paul said, "Would you like to take a ride?" And he said, "Yeah, I sure would." And after a short jaunt around town, the little kid said, "Hey, could you pull up in front of my house?" And Paul thought he knew what he was going to say because he wanted to show that his neighbors that he could ride home in a fancy new car just like everybody else could. When he got close to his house, he said, "Just like these steps here, can you pull up to those steps?" And Paul obliged. When he parked the car, the kid jumped out of the car, ran up the steps, and a few minutes later, he thought he heard something coming back toward the car. And he saw this little kid carrying his lame little brother, who couldn't walk for himself, down the stairs and finally plopped him on the top of the 2 steps. He snuggled up close to his brother. He said, pointing to the car, "There it is, just like I told you." And his brother gave it to him, and it didn't cost him a cent. He said, "Someday, I want to buy you a car just like it, so you and I can ride it around town together and look at all the windows and see how they're decorated for Christmas. And you can see what I've been trying to explain to you, how pretty it is and all the good gifts there are." Paul got out of the car and he lifted the deformed boy up and he set him on the front seat, and his brother followed, jumped in, and they had a ride to remember. And it showed Paul what the saying that it's better to give than to receive really is all about. Folks, we have an opportunity because there are individuals, I believe with all my heart, they are individuals created by God in a womb being formed that only He could have orchestrated, that deserve life. And they deserve that liberty and the ultimate pursuit of happiness that we promise to each and every individual in our state and our country. We have an opportunity to see that happens. And we have a law in our state that says life will be protected at the point of conception. So what are we going to do about it? I say that we put pressure on our Attorney General, Koster, and demand that he enforce the law in the state of Missouri. We have one remaining abortion clinic open in our state in St. Louis. I think it needs to shut down. And to get that done, it's going to take more than one lone voice. It's going to take a multitude of voices. They will come back to us and say, well, the law says this, or the law says that. And if, in fact, a law does need to be changed to make that happen, we hold that power in our hands. You as individuals have the authority to contact the government, because you created the government, and require that that law be what you want it to be, to allow that each and every individual life can remain and be viable and be born. And I heard someone say recently that there's no greater good a person can do than standing up for those who cannot speak or stand for themselves. And I say this is what we ought to do, but this may very well only be the beginning. I believe we have a fight on our hands. Are you willing to join in that fight?
Yep.
Yes. Glad to hear you say that. It's kind of surprising we may have one individual from the media here. I see no others represented. They may be in clandestine fashion, but I think I've met most everybody here, so I don't see anyone. So it's going to be our opportunity and responsibility to send out this message to the media so that they know that we really do care about the unborn lives of human beings. And so with that, I ask you to join with me in this fight. We were at the Capitol one day, and there was an extremely important decision that was being made. And I knew that I couldn't make that decision by myself, nor should I try, because one person can't do it all. In fact, one person can do very little in and of themselves. So I went to someone I trusted. Behind closed doors, I asked them to engage with me in this particular battle. And this man looked at me and said, I know what you're doing. You're doing the right thing. But I can't fight with you on that. And I looked at him and said, if we don't do the important things and fight the battles that are important today, then who will? Who will fight for what's right? And so I ask you today, I challenge you, pick up that mantle and let's go fight. And let's don't quit until we're victorious.
Woo-hoo! Yeah. Good luck.
Yes, I would encourage you to write Attorney General Koster, and if you need that information, I can send that out and make it available on the Facebook post. In fact, that might be something I'll do. Do all of you have Facebook?
Yep.
Most of you have email, okay? If you haven't already, you can either look up just Mike Moon on Facebook, and there are several Mike Moons. Some, I'm not sure exactly who they are. One is an imposter that actually has one of my pictures up. Look for the one that has the moon banner. It'll be like a Mike Moon for a state representative sign. And there's also a Mike Moon for Missouri that is a viable, I think it's got 200 likes, and it has a picture of my family there as well, so you'll recognize that one. But I'll post that information there for you as well. And if there's other information that I can forward to you or make available, I'd like to do that. Are there any questions that you have, that anything I said that might be unclear or that you need more detail about? Dean?
When did this statute that defines life beginning at conception, when did that statute become enacted?
I believe it was 1988. It was after the Roe v. Wade, which that decision was made. Started in 71, and because the court was hearing 2 or 3 different similar cases, they actually didn't rule until about 72 or 73 in Roe v. Wade, and they made that the pinnacle of the decisions. But this particular statute, I believe, last was revised in 1988.
What is that statute number?
It's statute 1.205.
Okay, well, obviously it's been ignored for this intervening amount of time in terms of action by the Attorney General or whoever is in charge. And I take it that what has been the situation relating to that statute and so on? I mean, will the natural progression of this, if indeed you try and get some action at the state level, you know, to enforce the closing of the remaining abortion clinic and so forth, is that then a step towards finally then getting some kind of a Supreme Court case, you know, a model case that goes up and then settles the issue between the fight between the feds and the state if they're in disagreement?
That's a pretty broad question.
I know, I'm sorry.
And that's okay, but I'll try to summarize it with maybe a brief answer, I hope. It's what we're doing today. Will that lead up to an ultimate change or a reversal in the Supreme Court's decision? Probably not, because the Supreme Court believes that they are supreme. Of course, they are the top law court in the land. One big exception I have with the Supreme Court and the President or the legislative branch, the Congress and the Senate, or the House and the Senate, is that they many times overlook Article 1, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which reads, "All legislative power herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives." What that means to me is, and I hope it does to you as well, is that the Congress makes the law, the House and the Senate. And so you have the legislative branch making the laws, the executive branch enforcing the laws, and the judicial branch interpreting in the case of Roe v. Wade and other court decisions. And so what should happen is, if you look at the Roe v. Wade decision, look at the way it was formatted and laid out. It the opinion was delivered in statute form. Now, statute is a law. And so if you have, just like the executive branch issues executive orders that cover and include the entire population of the United States, that is something that they have usurped authority from the Congress. They are not able to make law, and all those laws that executive orders should be invalidated and or ratified by the sitting Congress. In the case of Roe v. Wade, this particular law that they have actually enacted from the bench should be invalidated. And it should be, if the Congress wants to validate it, they should ratify that particular law. And so that's part of what we should be pushing. But from a state sovereignty standpoint, the 10th Amendment gives all authority that's not specifically given to the federal branch it is reserved to the states and to the people respectively. And so the Ninth Amendment essentially says something similar. It has to do with privacy and personal rights as well. And that's part of what Roe v. Wade the opinion was made from. And so there are several different avenues we need to go down, but the first one, I believe, is state sovereignty. The state of Missouri should be sovereign and able to protect our own citizens, of which are the unborn children. And over the last 40 years or so, since Roe v. Wade was enacted, I just put a few figures together, and this is from actually 1971 stats. We've had 570,568, that's over 500,000 abortions by Missouri residents. Over 500,000 Missouri residents gone. Some people say, well, I'm pro-choice. I think that we ought to give the people who are carrying the baby, the husband and the wife, the ability to say, well, we either want the child or not. What happened to the child's choice?
Mm-hmm.
I know some people say that's illogical because an embryo that is rapidly multiplying and forming into that human being can't think and speak and articulate as we can, and I know that's true. But I go back to one of the first points I made. If we truly believe that we are beings created by a supreme ruler, if you believe in the judgment, I would not want to be in the shoes of someone who said, let them do whatever they want. Let them kill the babies if they want, even up to the time of birth. And you've probably seen some of those photographs when you have a head coming out of the lady's body in the womb, and then they're clipping the spinal cord. That may be graphic, and I'm sorry if it is, but that's the truth. We've got to stop that nonsense. Let Missouri, the center of the geographical center of the United States, be the beacon of hope for the rest of these states in America, and let them know that we care about the unborn. We care about the innocent lives, the unborn children. I don't know what else I can say. I know you know I'm passionate about this. You've got to inherit that same passion, though. You have to get the facts, know the facts, so that you can purport those and espouse those wherever you go for those who will listen to you. We need to be bombarding the newspapers, all the media, if they will hear us. If you have a Facebook account, gently, and I encourage you gently, put these thoughts out there, because you will get pushback. And once they start calling names, I was just called an imbecile recently. That's right. I learned it from this man. Hold up your hand and say, I win. And then don't respond, because all you're going to do is continue on there. You know, you can respond if you want to, but be gentle, because through gentleness we will win. And I say pick up the sword and let's go, but that's a metaphor. In some cases that may be true. But I am so encouraged by you coming out today. It means a whole lot to me to know that I have the support. And I know that not everyone who wanted to be here could make it. And so I understand that this is multiplied a little bit. And I hope you'll help me continue to multiply that, to tell them that we need to stand strong. And I'm starting to repeat myself, so I better quit unless there's another question.
Mike Boone for president.